All right, welcome to another episode of What's the Story? Today I have Miss Gina on with us, and she is an IFBB pro bodybuilder. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Gina Cavaliero. I'm an IFBB pro bodybuilder, and I've been competing in bodybuilding for about 6 years, and I now compete at the pro level.
That's pretty amazing. I've never had the opportunity to talk to a pro before, so I'm very excited about this.
Awesome, I am too.
So what I kind of do on the show is I want to know where you started. Before I got on the Zoom with you, I was reading a little bit on your website about your background, and why don't you tell us how you got into bodybuilding?
Sure. It was always something I was interested in doing. I just had never really pursued it. I'd always been, in and out of the gym. I would go for a while, get fairly fit, and then I'd quit, and then I'd get fat, and then I'd repeat the process over and over and over. I mean, practically my whole life. Finally, at 45, my health was kind of starting to slide downhill as it does at that age. I was overweight, conditioned. So I decided to join the gym, and I happened to run into a woman that became my first coach. I asked if I could work in a set on squats, and she was like, "Hey, you've got a great build. You do well bodybuilding." I was like, "Really?" So I don't know if that was a really good line to make me a client. It worked, but it was how I got started.
Okay. And you said you've been doing it for 6 years.
Yeah, I started in 2014. So yeah, we're at 6 years.
Very cool, very cool. So what was your first ever event?
First show I did, I think, was Southeastern's. It was over in Orlando. It was a kind of medium-sized show. It certainly wasn't like your small local level show. It was actually a national qualifier. I don't remember how I placed. I didn't win. I know that.
Hey, we all got to start somewhere. And how long had you been training before that show?
Probably about 15 months.
Okay, so it still took you a while to do your first show.
It did, yeah. I basically bulked. I built for a good, 10 months, and then I cut, I think, for about 5.
Okay, okay. And so how long did it take you to get to pro?
How long did it take me to become a pro?
Yeah.
About 6 years. I just
Oh,
recently got
really?
October, yeah,
Well,
this year.
congratulations. I didn't know it was so recent.
Yeah.
How long
Yeah.
do you continue to keep competing in bodybuilding?
As long as I can. I'm 52, so, can I still do it at 60 or 63? I hope so. I have a very good friend, Michelle Brent, that is 63 and still competitive and
Wow.
looks incredible. So I think as long as, my body holds up and health holds up, I don't see myself stopping anytime soon.
Wow, that's amazing. Such a really cool goal, and you always have that strive. Do you have a strive to get any bigger, or are you kind of set where you are?
When you see, oh no, definitely
Bigger?
bigger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you,
Yeah. As an amateur, there's weight classes. So I was somewhat limited as an amateur. I couldn't get too big, or it would put me into a weight class where the women were were significantly taller. I'm
oh,
very, so, I'm not even 5 foot tall. So, I would get too big, and I would be against women that were 5'6", 5'7", and I would literally look like a little kid standing next to them.
oh,
So I had to kind of keep my size at a limit. But now as a pro, there's no weight classes, so I can, as long as I keep it aesthetic, I can get as big as I want, essentially.
okay, okay. So what's the biggest show that you've ever competed in, and where was it?
What was it again?
What was the largest show you've ever competed in?
That would probably be, I don't know, probably the most prestigious one would be Nationals, which is in Miami every year. I did that 3 years. But as far as like size, there's a couple shows up in Pittsburgh, Masters, and they also have what's called North Americans, which I think he gets easily, something like 1,800 athletes
Wow.
at those shows. So they're huge. They still manage to have them to Florida, just like they just did with the Olympia. Florida's been the place where everyone else is shutting down, and Florida's like, yep, we're still up in business. Come on.
Right.
Yeah.
That was another thing I wanted to ask you is how has the pandemic kind of affected your training or competing?
It's worked out to my advantage, really. When the pandemic started in March, I was planning on doing the Chicago Pro in July. And it meant a very, very brief off season. I didn't have much time off, and I was already starting to prep and really wasn't mentally ready for it. So when the pandemic occurred, that show got canceled. And then it was rescheduled to October, which gave me several more months then to get ready for that show, which is the show I won.
Okay.
So it absolutely worked to my advantage. So the whole year, kind of competitively show-wise, kind of got squashed into the last 6 months of the year. And a lot of them came to Florida.
Okay.
So that's pretty sweet. It was very convenient.
Blessing in disguise, if you will. The pandemic was.
Gyms closing for a period of time, that wasn't great. But we were fortunate here. It was only, I think, maybe 6-7 weeks. Whereas, other places in the country, they're still closed. So I definitely can't complain about that. Unfortunately, I had enough equipment at home to keep things going. I just had to be creative. But I didn't ever stop training. So again, I was really lucky when it came to that.
Okay. So what's your training regimen like, and how often do you train?
So 5 days a week, consistently, I weight train. I focus predominantly on posterior, hamstrings, glutes, and legs. It's probably what you would call my areas I need to develop the most. Always said upper body, it grows really easy for me. I don't have to do a lot. I just genetically am blessed with great biceps, So problem area and an easy area. For me, my problem certainly has been my legs. So I do those more often. Back, I don't train quite as much either because I've got good place with my back too. So, you can definitely sculpt the different areas and muscle groups that you need to. I do cardio daily, or I should. Right now it's off season. I'm a little lax. Need to get that back underway, but generally I do about 20 minutes of cardio every day.
Okay. Is that like running or jumping jacks, or what kind of cardio do you do?
I prefer spin bike. I have a spin bike.
Okay.
Or I'll do incline treadmill. I try not to run because I just really don't like it.
Same here.
If you want me to run, chase me with a pointy object, or I'll run from zombies and clowns, and that's about it. So.
Okay, I can definitely see that and agree with that.
Yeah, the zombies will probably catch me anyway, but I'll give it a go.
I'm sure you could take plenty of them out. Me, on the other hand, I wouldn't last a chance. So do you have a favorite part of your body to work out? I know you said you want to work out your legs and your lower body, but do you have a favorite part of your body to work out?
Really, I hardly don't. I really like every workout. If I had to pick a favorite, it would probably be shoulders.
Okay.
Just because there's like diversity with it. You've got like 3 parts of the shoulder. It's such a small muscle group, but there's like 3 distinct parts that you have to focus on.
That makes sense. Okay. And what's I have your Instagram open, meal prep, and what's meal prep like for you? Do you have like a company that sends you meals, or do you make your own meals?
I make my own. I actually also meal prep for clients too.
Okay.
So I try to meal prep at least 4 to 5 days in advance. So, I'll cook several pounds of protein, do my veggies and, carb, whatever that's generally be a sweet potato or rice. Not a lot of variety in what I eat. So it's kind of repetitive. But I try to keep it at least different. If I'm going to have chicken 3 times a day, every single day, I at least try to have some variety with what I have to prepare it,
Absolutely. Very, very nice. What's been the hardest challenge for you to overcome, would you say?
Um, this is a sport of constant growth. When I first started, I thought getting my pro card would come much faster and easier. Um, I definitely had some fairly good genetics for it, so I started building muscle easy, and I looked good early on. But I had to pay my dues. I had to put in my time. I had to build dense, mature muscle. So it's really taught me patience. It's taught me incredible discipline that, um, it teaches you can reach that goal, get yourself on stage with utmost discipline. There's nothing you can't do. So it's given me immense self-confidence.
Okay. And how long have you been a personal trainer?
I guess that's going on about 5 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many clients do you have currently? If you want to share that information, you don't have to.
Not a whole lot. I have a handful of specific clients, about a dozen, my meal prep clients. So there's been a handful, 6, 7 folks that I cook for every week too.
Wow.
Between the two things, I'm busy. Then I have online clients too. So, if you don't live nearby, and your lifestyle, perhaps you just want to lose weight, you want to get stronger, whatever your goals are, or if you're a competitive athlete, I also coach athletes long distance as well. So, kind of got like multiple little things going on.
Okay. Odd question for you. A lot of my friends that work out take pre-workout. What's your stance on a pre-workout?
I myself don't take them for, if you need a little pick me up, if you're working out late in the day or it's early in the morning, you're just one of those people that need to, get a little stimulant, they're great for that, right? So you got caffeine in them. It's going to give you a little bit of stimulation, a little more energy. The other real nice thing is that a good formulated one's going to give you a good pump, which that's great to feel that pump and to get that additional blood flow to the muscle. It's just going to be beneficial throughout the workout. So probably the only drawbacks is you become very, your tolerance increases to them. So, when one scoop gave you a pretty good pump and it gave you a pretty good, some energy, after a while you're like, wow, I need 1.5, and now I need 2 scoops. Or now you're looking for the next better pre-workout. So that's kind of the only, drawback to it, really.
Okay. Makes sense. I've never taken it myself, so I wanted to get someone else's opinion on it that is not just a friend and promotes it.
Yeah, a little gym. If you're yeah.
And do you do protein shakes as well as just doing the meal preps and the extra protein in the meal? And what kind of protein do you use?
I don't do protein shakes a whole lot. I don't really advocate them for my clients either, unless if we have to use them, we will. So essentially, what I mean by that is I prefer to get my protein from whole foods, right? I want, meats, eggs, processed and refined stuff to get that protein if I can avoid it. Now, if you have a job where you can't take a break every 2.5 hours to eat your meal, but you can slam a protein shake, by all means, get the protein down. As far as what type I like, brand-wise and type, definitely what's called a whey isolate.
Okay.
And I love, it's a company called True Nutrition. They have, you can like custom blend your protein down to the flavor, how strong you want it, like mild or strong. You can add in all kinds of cool stuff like electrolytes and aminos and like add-ins. And I think they have customizable like oatmeal and stuff like that too. So it's a really cool company.
Wow, okay. I'll have to check that out.
And they have eco-friendly packaging.
Always
It's
friendly. What's your take on like drinks that have electrolytes in it? Because everyone says like Gatorade, but it's full of sugar. So like, do you drink anything that's specifically electrolyte rich that's good for you?
um, I don't just maintain my mineral intake like a multi-mineral. So we're looking for the potassium, sodium, magnesium levels. I do a magnesium supplement It's called Natural Calm. It's like a powder that you just drink every night.
Okay.
But most of those drinks, like you said, Gatorade has sugar, right? So then you can go to Gatorade Zero, which isn't going to have the sugar, but again, you're getting those electrolytes in a very highly processed form. So if you can get it in a more pure and natural form, it's going to be down to you. You need to replenish your electrolytes, because let's say you're outside and it's summer in Florida and you need them, then by all means get them in any way you can.
Okay. Makes sense. Because I was like, I've seen these people online and like, put this powder in your water and it's full of electrolytes. And they're like, no, it doesn't work. And I don't know what to go for anymore, because I want to get more electrolytes in than just drinking water. But
yeah, and if you drink a lot of water, you're going to flush some of those out as well. There's stuff called, I think it's called noon, which is like you just drop it into the water and it dissolves.
okay.
So it's going to have sugar. It's not going to have a whole lot of additives and stuff. So there's definitely ways to get them in. Realistically, we're not getting them in our food. It's just like the same thing with vitamins. That's why you need to supplement so much, because the food's very devoid of anything valuable anymore. Because it's just over farmed. So we're just not getting the nutrition out of the food that we should be getting.
Okay. So I know a lot of people are like, I'm tired of chicken. Like, let me get a lot of red meat. Like, in your opinion, do you think it's better to have white meat or red meat for protein?
Definitely advantages to red meat. But of course, we always have to be concerned about cholesterol, depending on how much of that red meat we consume. So we can do other things to help, reduce those cholesterol issues or levels. There's supplementation. Oatmeal is another good thing that's very heart healthy. I don't today, and even once a day is possibly too much for some people, because some people are going to have more of a tendency to have cholesterol, issues than others. It's definitely genetic. So some people, whereas daily it's not a big deal, others it could be. So are there other just as good proteins? Yeah, you're just not going to get some of the aminos that the red meat has, but we can certainly go with chicken, ground turkey, white meat turkey. Fish is always a good option. Those are always like the backup protein. If all else fails, you can eat egg whites.
Okay. Very nice, very nice. Okay. So I have a really odd question, and I don't mean this in a demeaning way or anything. I'm just very curious. I see everybody do it. Why spray tan?
Why? Because the lights on stage wash you out.
Okay.
And you can see more definition when the skin's tan, as opposed to like if you stick on a tan athlete next to a white, you wouldn't be able to tell the musculature at all.
Okay. Always been something I've wondered. I'm like, why are they spray tanning?
Yeah. And it's like several heavy, thick coats. I mean, it stains everything, it takes like a week to finally wear off, if not longer.
That's what my next question was going to be, how long does it take to put on and how long does it take to come off?
Well, you get sprayed, literally. You go in and there's people set up with little like one-person tents, and they're spraying people nonstop. So you go in and usually get that first coat the night before. You go back the morning of the show, get another coat gloss. They oil you. So it's definitely interesting things that go on backstage at bodybuilding shows.
Okay. Curious. If Jimmy ever goes to another one, I want to go with him just to see what it's like.
I think he's talked about it, so I do anticipate there'll be another show in his future.
Okay. So what's the maximum? Not maximum. What's the largest amount of other women you competed against in one show?
I think there were some shows, the ones I mentioned that were in Pittsburgh. I think we did a class that had 26 competitors in it. It was women's physique, which is the class for the division just below mine. I'm in bodybuilding, which is the largest division. But so there's not as many women bodybuilders as there are physique competitors. It's kind of like the smaller the division gets in musculature, the bigger they get. So of course the biggest one's bikini,
Hmm.
whereas there's the least amount of women in what I do in bodybuilding.
Okay. And for me, who doesn't know anything, would you, what's the difference between like the bikini and the physique and the bodybuilding? Like, obviously, I know the bodybuilding is the mass, right?
Right. So definitely differences are the amount of muscle. And then the other notable difference usually or should be is what we call conditioning. How lean does the athlete have to get? How much muscular striations will you see? So for a woman bodybuilder, we should see glutes. We want to see no fat whatsoever on the glutes. We want to actually see the separation of muscle. Um, we want to see just a hint of that with physique. Figure, we don't want to see any. And by all means, bikini and wellness, which are the two smallest classes, we definitely don't want to see that level of condition. There's going to be still body fat there, a low percentage of it, but it's not going to be lean, hard, striated muscle.
Okay. Okay. Um, so would you say there's a minimum age that like a person could become a bodybuilder? Like say they want to start when they're really young, or like do you think they should let their muscles develop first or
There's definitely teenage bodybuilders, uh, and it's I think probably an okay age to start seriously weight training. I think you can start even younger than that. But if you want to weight train in order to bodybuild, I think it's feasible for like a 15-year-old to start doing. Um, Generally, until they're at least 14, lift heavier than their body weight. That would kind of be my limitation on them. Just because there's those growth plates are still, they're not grown yet, completely. But as they're hitting about 15, 16, they can start pushing definitely bigger weight.
okay. Okay. Odd question. Have you ever had anybody like challenge you to a fight because they noticed that you were big and like you thought they were so tough or whatever?
No, I've never been challenged. I've had a drunk guy assume that I could kick his ass, which I probably could have because he was drunk and stuff. But yeah, I've never been challenged,
Well, that's good.
fortunately.
Very good. Very good.
But I've heard, the comment people have made more than once is, oh, I wouldn't want to run into you on a dark alley. And it's like, I'm just muscular. I'm not mean.
Right.
you know?
Yeah, never judge a book by its cover.
Right.
So I see on your arms you have a couple of tattoos.
I do.
Are those all very meaningful to you? Like, I should ask, what are the meanings behind them?
Most of them are. One's a cover up, so it was something meaningful. Um, I actually had an intention of I wanted to get a single sleeve at one point. And then when I started competing, that's when I essentially stopped getting tattoos because as they are, they definitely still obscure the muscle. If you've got dense artwork, it's hard to see. So the only one I have gotten since I've been competing is that one, which I got after I put down my last dog. So it's
Oh,
basically it's my little you know thing for my all my past pets. So
oh.
my horses and my dogs are all with me still.
Horses, you have horses.
I used to, yes, not anymore.
Wow. So you used to do horseback riding as well, I'm assuming.
I did.
And how long did you do that for?
Wow, quite a while. I would say probably close to 15 years I had horses.
Wow. Okay. Just cool little side note there. So I did want to ask, you think it, well, in your opinion, I guess, heavy artwork, does that, you said obscure the muscle, do you think that the judges take that into account, or is it just, oh, I can't see it as much, like take points off or whatever have you?
To my understanding, I think because so many athletes have ink now, I mean, you probably out of 10 people on stage, 9 of them have ink.
Really?
I, I mean, everybody's got tattoos. Um, So I think they try to ignore it as much as possible. But if it comes down to, if they're really, point for point and this guy's back might be great, but they can't see it, you know?
Okay. So, personal question. How big are your arms?
I haven't measured in several months. I think last time I measured, they were 15.5 inches.
Wow. They are very impressive. I'm nowhere near that, but I would love to get to that one day.
Thank you.
So when you first started bodybuilding, do you think that you would become a trainer, or was that something you had always had in your mind?
No, actually, I didn't really intend to become a trainer. I was, I guess, bodybuilding for about a year, though, when I transitioned. Um, People were naturally just coming to me anyway. And, it was the business I had at the time, I was dissolving. So I needed to do something else. And I loved it. It was just something it came very naturally to me to do. So, I started working immediately as a trainer, and it worked out well.
Oh, very nice. So again, kind of scrolling through your Instagram, I see pictures of two really nice pizzas. So do you have a cheat meal that you go to, or do you do cheat meals, I guess?
I do. I have a coach. His name's Lloyd Herford. It's Rise Athletic Performance. He's up in Georgia. So I have a cheat meal when he says to have a cheat meal. And my goes, I think I'm gonna do something different. I'll go with my tried and true. Pizza and usually a cookie, a chocolate chip cookie.
Okay.
You'll
Speak.
probably put those on my Instagram too somewhere.
I'm scrolling. I'm looking for them. I see Pop Tarts. I do see Pop Tarts. So speaking of cookies, what have you ever had the Lenny and Larry's complete cookie?
I have.
What do you think of those?
What? The first time because I ate the whole thing, and then I looked at the macros and realized it was 2 servings, and I had like way more carbs than I should have. I'm like, who eats half a cookie?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So, yeah, I mean, they taste great, and it's protein, but they're still pretty high in carbs. I think they're fairly high in fat too. I think Quest makes one. Probably doesn't taste as good, but but it's probably more macro friendly.
Okay. So I don't want to sound dumb, but I'm gonna ask anyway. Everyone's like, I'm not very into weightlifting. I have friends, like I said, that are, and they're always talking about like macros and stuff. Like, what is a macro? Like, broken down. What's a macro?
Sure. So it's a macronutrient, right? So you've got macros and micros. So the macros are the big three: your fats, carbs, and protein.
Okay.
And
Okay.
micros would be sodium, sugar, all the other stuff that comprises food that's on that label.
Okay. And do you have any foods that, like, obviously carbs and like processed foods, but do you have anything that is generally recommended to be good for you that you would stay away from on your diet?
Um, Not really. I mean, if
No?
it's recommended, I mean, fruit. So, fruit is good for you,
Mm-hmm.
but fruit in moderation because fruit is also high in sugar. Granted, it's natural sugar, it's not refined and processed, but you're still consuming a lot of sugar, and, just a lot of sugar consumption can be a problem.
Okay. That makes sense. I've always, like, everyone's on a diet. Like, I had a friend on keto, and he's like, well, I asked him, I'm like, can I have fruit? And he's like, no, because it's still sugar. And I'm like, yeah, but it's natural. And he's like, it doesn't matter.
It's certainly better than a Snickers bar,
Yeah.
right? But it's still sugar.
So I see this one video on your Instagram, and it's all these red dots on your back. What is that?
Yeah, I had cupping done, so I go to a guy. Um, Hunter Tuck. It's Engaged Therapeutic Arts. So he does like deep tissue massage, therapeutic massage, and he uses cupping. So that helps like the red spots are basically blood that's brought to the surface. It's almost like a bruise.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it increases blood flow to the tissue, to the muscle that he's worked on. You know, so, and of course more blood. So I try to get that done. Like leading up to my competition, I saw him weekly. Every single week religiously, and now I'm starting to see him every other week. Just to, you got to pay attention to your muscles and joints, and we get limitations in our range of motion because the things kind of get tight, and then if you don't address it, it's just going to get worse and worse, and potentially become a long-term injury.
And I know it hasn't been around for a while. Do you know like when it started? And like you said, it's good for the blood flow and stuff.
I don't know when it originated. But I would say probably you didn't see about it maybe until about 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of seems like when everybody started, doing cupping. And in addition to the blood flow, there's something else it does that I can't remember off the top of my head.
How much does it hurt? Because it looks like it hurts a lot.
The funny thing is that it usually is done after they've done the deep tissue work. So by that point, you're like, oh, thank God, because they're not wailing on you anymore. And those actually kind of feel.
Okay. So I think it's called lactic acid. I've heard that when you do a really intense workout, if you jump immediately into an ice bath, it helps take the acid out of the muscles.
It can help. Probably one of the things that people don't do that helps to dissipate lactic acid more than anything is be well hydrated. Mm-hmm. Vast majority of people don't drink enough water. So what's going to it's going to help. And also having a good diet, having adequate protein, so when that muscle is damaged and needs to repair, it has the building blocks to do it. If it doesn't, it struggles. So it seems to cause additional soreness and lactic acid buildup. In the midst of training, when it's building up and it's burning, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do another rep, breathe. That's another thing that's pretty critical, right? Good oxygenation. It's actually going to help oxygenate the muscle. It's going to help dissipate that acid too.
Okay. And do you have any workouts that people like rave about that you would say, oh, replace it with this or replace it with that?
I'm not quite sure what you mean.
So like for cardio, everyone says just run, just run, just run, but there's obviously tons of other better ways to do cardio.
Yeah.
Like you said, you do the bike.
Really, when it comes to cardio, it's going to be whatever makes it go easier for you. Because some people love cardio and other people don't. And it's a forced thing. Calorie burn than others. Like running absolutely does. So advantage of running as opposed to sitting on a recumbent bike, you're not going to burn a lot of calories on the recumbent bike. On a spin bike, you can absolutely burn a lot more. Especially if you're gonna, incorporate HIIT type of workouts or cardio. And that's where instead of going at a steady state or steady pace, you're doing intervals. So you're going fast, you're going slow. So that's going to, accomplish a few different things. It's definitely great for cardiovascular health, and also helps to get you into a fat burn zone too.
Okay. So another question about, this is more about like spine and stuff. I have a foam roller. Have you used the foam roller?
Yep.
Are those good for like your back muscles and stuff? Because like sometimes I'll get off it and I'm like, it kind of felt good, but it kind of hurt. Like.
Yeah, they're actually great. They work along the same principle as like deep tissue massage. It's about myofascial release. So yeah, you can almost self-massage with those. They're great for your back. You can even, foam roll your legs, your quads. If you had after a good leg workout, it's great to foam roll quads, even hamstrings. So yeah, absolutely use it and advocate it too.
Okay, would you say it's better to work, if I were to do a foam roll, should it be before a workout or after a workout?
After.
After?
Yeah, unless you have something that's loosen up and stretch out. But yeah, we want to do what we call the term leading me right now, dynamic stretching before workout, and that's mostly about kind of joint mobility. Like we might want to do like external rotation with our shoulders, because shoulders articulate all different types of ways. Maybe moving in a big circle. But I'm not going to want to do like a long static stretch where I'm trying to stretch and elongate the muscle, right? We don't really necessarily want to loosen those up before we lift, because ideally we want to do damage to that muscle. That's how we're going to actually make it grow.
Right.
If I stretch it out before, it's going to be a little harder to create that muscle tension that I need and create the type of muscle fiber damage that I want in order to create that growth. So we're going to do that static or that long stretching where we're just stretching out that muscle after the lift. And we're going to do what we call dynamic, which is going to focus on mobility and joints before.
Okay. My other friend, like I said, that worked out, he's always like, stretch long. You want to get it all loosened up and stuff. So that's good to know, like what you just said. Damn, I just had a question and I lost it.
Oh.
Damn it. It'll come back to me. So what's the furthest you've ever traveled for a show?
Farthest, I guess Pittsburgh. I was supposed to go to Chicago for the Chicago Pro, but they brought it to Atlanta, so that ended up being a lot closer. But Pittsburgh's definitely. I've been to Pittsburgh, I think, 3 or 4 times to do. It's pretty cool.
Okay. Do they do international bodybuilding shows, and have you ever done one?
Well, actually, the show that most of the national level shows are international. We have amateur athletes coming from around the world. The one where I won my pro card was called the Miss International.
Okay.
So I was Miss International lightweight champion. So yeah, I guess so.
Would you ever go? I shouldn't say would you ever, because I'm sure you would love to travel to another country and do a show, but is there a country you'd want to go to do a show? Like top of your list?
Well, my top of the list show is here in the States. That's the Olympia. But the Arnold Classic they have one in Australia. There's one in Europe, and we have one here as well. It'd be cool to go and do one of those, or there's what's called the Romania Muscle Fest, which is another huge show in Romania. So, I mean, there's some really cool ones. So I hope I get the opportunity to travel and do that, sometime.
That'd be a lot of fun.
It would.
So, Arnold, have you ever had any like celebrities or anybody at any of the shows that you've gone to?
Well, I went to the Arnold probably about 5 years ago. So of course he's there. You don't get to really see him. He's like off and like bodyguards around him. But and I just went to the Olympia and there was tons of celebrities there. And the best bodybuilders in the world, which was awesome to be around.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. So another odd question. I always see, like, my grandpa likes to watch the Strongman Competitions where they do, like, the giant stones and stuff. Is that all bodybuilding? Or is there different kinds of other trainings that go into that?
I guess that would be a strongman competition. And it's entirely different. They're not lifting at all for aesthetics, so to speak. They're lifting solely for strength and, like, I don't know if you call it agility or not even agility, because it's like muscular dexterity. I mean, they're doing, the stone things and like they're pulling things and like log carries, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, impressive stuff. It's so entirely different than any type of training I do. It's cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Still waiting for that question to come back to me, damn it.
When we're done, you'll remember it.
Mm-hmm. What's the very most important thing to always remember while you're training?
Probably focus. I always tell clients, when you're in the gym, I mean, you're not only spending your energy, your time, your money, you might be paying for the gym, you might be paying for your trainer. You're expending a lot of value present, and be sure that you're connecting with your muscle, mind muscle connection. So, whereas, you see a lot of times people are doing their lift and they're talking nonstop and they're having a conversation as they're lifting those weights. Well, their muscles aren't getting the full benefit because their brain's not thinking about the muscle. They're thinking about that conversation. So definitely best thing you can do is focus, give it all your attention for that hour, however long you're there, and then go have your conversations.
Okay, and it just came back to me. I always see these posts where it's like, you did like an hour workout, you feel tired, you did 40%, keep going. Like, is that good, or is that going to damage you, or what's, I guess, is that true, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely work beyond, up to failure. It's hard to work beyond failure unless you have, a good lift partner. So you can do what's considered a forced rep. So, if you're bench pressing and you can get 6 reps by yourself, and with your spotter, you can get 2 more, magic happens. We're now pushing that muscle beyond its capacity. It's still moving the weight with a little bit of help. So yeah, going beyond is definitely beneficial. There's lots of reasons to be able to do that. Do you want to do it on every single exercise or every single set? No. You want to use that discriminately, because doing it every time could definitely be too much. We don't want to, push that muscle to an extreme to where we get an injury. But we want to push it to a failure.
Okay. So if you're trying to build muscle, like, because it's been explained to me that there's a difference between like strength and like building like size. So if you're trying to build strength, is it better to go heavy weight, low rep, or high rep, low weight?
So if you're looking to build predominantly just strength, let's say you're a power lifter, you're definitely going to work in a very, very low rep range, maybe 3, 5 reps. You're going to take really, really long hits, because you're really focused on having to move that weight one time in competition, right?
Mhm.
Now, as a bodybuilder, we're doing it for hypertrophy. I can't always have a hard time saying that word. But so we're going to work in a bit higher rep range. Ideally, I prefer 8 to 10 for the most part for your heavier working sets. Um, I rarely ever go above 15 reps unless I'm, taking an exercise to failure. But I do also believe that for strength, because as you get stronger, essentially there's one thing that's occurring is we're recruiting more and more muscle fiber to do the work. And if we're recruiting more and more muscle fiber and we're lifting heavier and heavier weights, invariably we're going to grow more muscle to do it.
Okay. So I'm looking to get back in the gym, and I want to get not necessarily bigger, but I want to get stronger. So that's really good to know. So I think that's actually all the questions I have for you. Do you want to plug in anything, any of your Instagrams or social medias or anything?
Yeah, I would love to. My Instagram's gcaplift. That's primarily where I'm at. I also have Gina Cavaliero, female bodybuilder, on Facebook. And there's a page there you can follow. Um, got some pretty cool project coming up. I have a little IGTV show that I do. It's called Meal Prep and a Flex. But this year, I'm taking it on the road. So
Oh,
California. Going to visit Pella Trevino, two-time Rising Phoenix World Champion. She just competed and took third at the Olympia. And we're going to cook. So we're going to do one of her favorite off-season recipes. And every month I'm going to go and visit a different pro bodybuilder, and we're going to cook one of their favorite meals. So definitely tune in for that.
very cool. And I guess one last question before I let you go, two. How many awards have you won?
How many awards have I won?
Yeah.
Uh, Probably high teens, maybe 18, something like that.
Okay. And last question, what is the best advice you can give to somebody who's looking to get into bodybuilding?
Get a coach, definitely.
Get a coach.
You know, not because I am one, but because there's so much that goes into it. And if you try to sort through all the information online, it's overwhelming. And there's, for every question you ask online, different answers and theories. Um, so, find a good coach. Make sure they're reputable. Make sure they have athletes. Ask them for references. There's a lot of, we want to call Insta coaches, because you've got Instagram and people can, hey, instantly call themselves a coach. Just check and make sure that they have a good background. But it takes so much effort and energy and, blood, sweat, and tears, literally, sometimes, that don't waste your time spinning your wheels not knowing what you're
Awesome. So for anybody out there listening to this that wants to become a bodybuilder, there you go. From a pro.
doing.
I greatly appreciate your time, and you've given me such valuable information.
It's been fun. Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm very glad to have had you, and thank you again. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much again.
All right. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.